Welcome to Jerusalem. My name is Sébastien Doane. I invite you to discover Jerusalem with me. An old saying says, 10 measures of beauty descended on the world. 9 were taken by Jerusalem, 1 by the rest of the world. There is no beauty like the beauty of Jerusalem. Follow me and you'll discover the city, its people, its history, and its important places. It all started here. This is where the city of David once stood, a small area south of the old city. Archaeological excavations continue their digging to better understand the history of Jerusalem. We know now that there were Canaanites and other groups who lived here before David founded his capital. Throughout history, several kings have left their mark here, like Hezekiah, who built a long underground tunnel to have access to water underneath the city walls. Jerusalem was completely destroyed by the Babylonians in the 6th century before Christ, and a part of the population was deported to Babylon. After the exile, the temple was rebuilt. Several hundred years later, in the time of Jesus, Herod made a massive expansion to the temple. One of its supporting walls is still visible today. The western wall is the only element that has withstood the destruction of the temple by the Romans. These days, it's the most sacred place in Judaism. Pilgrims come and place little pieces of paper on which they wrote their prayers and insert them in the spaces between the larger stones. Jews come here to celebrate the Sabbath and other rituals because the wall is considered an open-air Orthodox synagogue. On Friday night, thousands of people gather to pray, sing, and dance. When I was there, I was struck by the festive atmosphere of the Sabbath, but also by the significant presence of young soldiers with their weapons seen here dancing in the middle of the crowd. Adjacent to the wall is the archaeological park. Here we can see huge stones that were sent down by the Romans when they destroyed the temple. It's also a great place to walk and go back in time. At the top of the western wall is the Temple Mound. There we find several important Muslim sites. The Alaska Mosque commemorates the passage of Muhammad to Jerusalem. According to the Muslim tradition, the Prophet would have made a night journey from the Mecca to Jerusalem, from which he left for an ascension to heaven and hell. In the center of the plaza, we find the Dome of the Rock. It's home to the stone on which Abraham would have agreed to sacrifice his son. With its golden dome, it's become the well-known symbol of Jerusalem. The old city of Jerusalem is divided into 4 very different neighborhoods. The Muslim quarter is located in the northeast. It includes mosques and souks. Its streets are most often extremely crowded. South, near the western wall, is the Jewish quarter. Rebuilt recently, its houses are more modern. There are several museums and synagogues to visit here. Then there's the Armenian quarter and the Christian quarter to the northwest. Here we find the Via Dolorosa, a path on which Christians commemorate the moments leading to the crucifixion of Jesus. Every day, pilgrims come to pray on this way of the cross with the Franciscans, whose presence in the Holy Land date back to the Middle Ages. This path ends at the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre. This church is the center of the Christian quarter and a very sacred place. The Holy Sepulchre was built on the site of Jesus' crucifixion and tomb. It's a very busy place, visited by thousands of tourists and pilgrims every day. At some point, it can even become difficult to pray here with all that movement. On top of that, several Christian rites hold liturgies even at the same time, singing and talking very loudly in all sorts of languages. But you can still find places of silence, especially if you choose to stay here during the night. If you do so, you'll be locked up until 5 in the morning, but you'll have lots of time to pray peacefully. The sepulchre is home to the stone on which Jesus' cross was planted. An Orthodox altar is built upon it, but there's a hole so that you can kneel and touch that stone. A marble stone commemorates the place where Jesus' body was brought down from the cross. Finally, the heart of the sepulchre is an edicule built on the tomb of Jesus. There are long lines and it can take hours to get in. Once inside, you find a small room with flowers, incense, candles. There's not much to see here, but remember, it's the empty tomb. Christ is arisen. He's no longer here. The old city of Jerusalem is surrounded by walls built by Solomon the Magnificent in the 16th century. One of my favorite experiences was to walk on top of these walls and see the city from above. The walls of Jerusalem have 8 gates. Of these, one finds the Damascus Gate to the north. This is the most ornate door. It's used every day by Arabs to go to East Jerusalem. Jaffa Gate is protected by the Citadel, a city of military installations used by King Herod in Jesus' time. On the other side of that door lies West Jerusalem, a very modern city, in complete contrast with the Old Town. Don't miss a visit to the Israeli Museum, which contains artifacts from all periods of history, and Yad Vashem, the museum commemorating the Holocaust. Zion Gate is famous for the bullet holes made by the Israeli army when it conquered the Old City in 1967. Finally, to the east, the Golden Door is the door through which the Messiah, awaited by the Jews, will enter the temple. For this reason, the Golden Door was walled in by Muslims who have also installed cemeteries around it to make the place unclean for the Jews. Across from the Golden Gate, to the east of the Old City, we find the Mount of Olives. This is where Jesus would have spent the night with his disciples before getting arrested. We can still see several century-old olive trees. Thousands of Jewish tombs are also found here. Jews want to be buried here to be the first to rise and follow the Messiah when he comes in through the Golden Gate. From the Mount of Olives, we have a panoramic view of the city. Thus ends our brief survey of the city of Jerusalem. Psalm 87 says, "Jerusalem, our home is within you." Well, I hope you enjoyed getting to know Jerusalem and that you'll come here to see it for yourself, for it is our true home.